Bob and Dotty Webber were renowned for their off-the-grid lifestyle. 50 years of a life spent together in a remote log cabin brought them personal happiness, but also inspired countless others to form a deeper connection with the natural world, and to become better stewards of Pennsylvania's forests. Bob was a Lycoming County native who moved to Slate Run in the 1950s. He soon met and married Dottie Tome, whose family had lived there for more than 150 years. They both loved the rugged beauty and rich history of the Pine Creek Valley, and worked throughout their lives to share this amazing resource with others.
We always wanted to live back in the woods, in the forest. So we settled here among the rattlesnakes and the bear and the cold weather and deep snows. But we live here by choice. We like the scenery, the location, and just the type of lifestyle that it involves. It involves hardships. You have to live to live. Life involves everything you do as part of your living.
He's probably the font of knowledge of the Pine Creek Valley. Between the history and places, Bob Webber probably knows more than any other single living human being.
So I've lived here in this little log cabin longer than any place I've ever lived in my life.
It's 2.5 miles off Route 44, overlooks Slate Run. They have nothing, no running water, no electricity. Live simply, to say the least.
We have an outside toilet. We don't have running water. We carry all our water from the springs. We cook on the wood stove. And we have, in the other room, we have a combination coal and wood stove. We have no electricity. We use kerosene lamps.
He was promoted to forest foreman, and he lived at the house right along Route 44. I don't know whether he didn't like it or maybe Dottie didn't like it, but they made a transition 6 or 7 times. They moved back. I think the simple the better was what Bob wanted.
Simple lifestyle. No computers, no cell phones, no traffic, no light bill, no anybody calling you on the phone and pestering you. Just simple, quiet, just life. He had found a way to do it through his father's land and building that cabin, and he was able to get at the root of life, and I really admired that.
I just loved and admired Bob and Dottie. I think anybody that loves being out in the woods would, and they were a part of the forest. They were just absorbed by the forest, really, where they lived, back in the cabin. He and Dottie were true pioneers, and they were really a team, just really a team.
As I remember, Bob was just a really generous person. He would share cookies, tea, information, history. Bob loved the history of the Pine Creek Valley. Bob was one of the hardest workers I've ever met, physically. He was born 125, 150, 200 years too late because he would rather cut a tree out of the way with an axe than with a chainsaw.
Bob was a deep thinker. He enjoyed people. He enjoyed being around them. He also enjoyed being away from them. I think so. He enjoyed being out in the forest and doing trail work, trail maintenance, doing it so that others could enjoy what he enjoyed. And the best way for that would be to build trails so people could travel and hike this Black Forest Trail, hike the Golden Eagle Trail.
He decided this country needed a foot trail, which became the Black Forest Trail, after he and another fellow went up to the Adirondacks and saw the trail network that the state had up there. And he decided that this country was beautiful enough, spectacular enough, that it needed it too. And he got permission from the then district forester to start working on it. There it is, and the Black Forest Trail is probably the premier hiking trail in the state.
Well, it's a good feeling. when you do things and for the public, and the public responds and uses your work, it's a feeling of accomplishment.
Bob lived the journey, going to where he was going, wherever that was in life. And a lot of us forget about the journey because the destination, here's where I want to be, and I'm going to do everything I can to get to this destination. Bob loved the journey. The destination wasn't important. It was the journey that was life. Living every little moment that some people just might think was very, very boring. But for Bob, the journey is what life is about. It's the journey through life. And both him and Dottie figured that out.
Dottie and Robert, to me, this is almost kind of a love story. They could not have lived this long for 50 years in the mountain like they lived together here in this cabin if they wouldn't have been truly in love. Dottie never went to the doctor. Before she died, she had the flu, very sick and fever, and she didn't really get totally better after that.
Even in the hospital on his last couple days, he said, we stopped to visit him, and he said, I want to go home, you know. So this was home right here.
But as long as we're able to survive, continue to stay here.
In the fall of 2015, I was approached by someone who's on the board of directors here at the museum, who used to work in DCNR Bureau of Forestry with Bob as a colleague. And he said to me, you know, there's some folks that want to relocate this cabin that used to belong to this real interesting guy. As I came to find out more about their lives and who they were and how they lived, it became increasingly clear that the cabin would be a good fit here. Bob and Dottie lived a life that would really dovetail well with the second half of our mission statement at the museum, to educate the public about Pennsylvania's lumbering history, but then the flip side of that is also the ongoing care, management, and recreational use of the forest. Summer of 2018, the cabin got reconstructed here at the museum. So we asked folks to get in that space, that 500 square foot cabin, consider how they lived in there for 50 years with no electricity, no plumbing, no running water, and then maybe step back and look at their own lifestyle and say, what am I using right now that I could maybe do without?
And what they're doing at the museum, I think, is really good. They're using it for an educational tool, just to show not only how they live, but how you should live maybe a little bit of your life.
Bob became very successful of finding life, real life, right here in Pine Creek, and he didn't need everything that the rest of us needed.
Bob would approve of what we've done in moving the cabin to the Pennsylvania Lumber Museum for the simple fact that I believe he would want people to know his way of life, how the simple life oftentimes is the better life. I think Bob would like to see that point come across to today's people, that you can live as they lived, and we are trying to establish that with this cabin, because there is a way of life other than our technological age where we're all wired up with the world.